welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already done so, please do not forget to subscribe. So today I wanted to go way back, well, not too far back, but when I started blogging back in 2018, it was right after I decided to leave my job that I had been with for 8 years. I decided to start doing Launch Code, which is a coding program. And then at the same time, we decided to celebrate our 2nd year anniversary with a trip to Europe. So we did a couples trip. And we went with 2 other couples who were also celebrating their 3rd year and 2-year anniversary as well. So while we were out of the country, a really good friend of ours, Terrell Turner, had already been vlogging for a while and was like, well, you should do a video to go along with your blog. So I'm like, that's a cool idea. So I recorded this video and I posted my blog, but I never posted the video. So fast forward to today, I said, you know what, since I'm vlogging now, let me go ahead and share the nuggets that we had from that video and share it with you all. And hopefully it helps someone and encourages others while they're in their marriage, or anyone who's thinking about getting married, or anyone who's engaged. So the video we called was I Still Do, because every day in marriage, you have to choose your marriage, right? You have to choose to stay married. You have to make a choice to say yes to your marriage daily, with the ups and the downs. So I entitled the video I Still Do. And I hope you enjoy the little nuggets that we have, that we share with each other. And hopefully it helps you like it helped me. If you have any questions or if you want to leave comments, please don't forget to do so in the comment section. I am Aisha McGee, and this is Living My Best Life. If you haven't already done so, please follow me at living_mybestlife.com, where you'll find all the new lifestyle trends from food, clothing, and just pure entertainment. Today, we are going to be talking about I Do. So this is our anniversary trip. So, woo woo! So these are the McGees. That's my husband, Rodney. Say hi. And then we also have the Turners. Hello. And we also have the Words. What up? What's up? So we all have been married between 2 to 3 years, and so we wanted to do an anniversary trip.
What would you have told your before marriage self to prepare you for your married self?
Oh, wow.
Because sometimes, like, coming from a Christian background, the Bible was our blueprint as far as what marriage is supposed to look like. But it really didn't go deep into detail.
Okay, I just wanted to come in and do a quick edit. So once again, recorded the video a couple of years ago, never posted it. And I just wanted to talk about the one point I made about the Bible not really going into deep detail, and correct that statement I made. And it's more so that I didn't go into details into the Bible. Like, I didn't dig deep into the Bible when it pertained to marriage. I kind of read it on a surface level. So the more I got closer to God, the more he revealed to me. And I just wanted to reveal that, you know, the Bible was created for a purpose. It's a blueprint for life. And if you don't ever open it, or if you never really study it, then you will miss the nuggets that God has for us to help us be successful in everyday life and even in our marriages. And another good book that I've read, and actually which is a 6-week study for marriage, is called It Takes a Village to Stay Married. A really good friend of ours wrote the book. Once again, like I said, it's a 6-week study on marriage and how to have a successful marriage. You have to have a communal group, right? You have to have people in your community, within your marriage community, helping you, building you up in your marriage. You need someone that you can vent to. You need someone who knows what God's plan is for marriage, and that can be an accountability partner, or who can help you see things maybe a little clear that you may not have clear focus on. So the book is really, really, really helpful. It really helped us while we did it for 6 weeks in our small growth group. And I just wanted to share a couple of excerpts from the book, the first chapter, that really digs into marriage and the purpose of marriage and how it was designed by God. So I just wanted to share that real quick with you all. In the book, Brandy reminds us that marriage is a good idea. It is not only a good idea, but it is God's idea. In creating marriage, God has given us guidelines and instructions on how to coexist in marriage and in relationships with one another. Those instructions are located in the Bible. As much as we would like to believe that we created and developed the concept, we did not. God is the one that decided that it was not good for man to be alone and created a helper who was suitable for him. And you can find it in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. Another point I wanted to touch on is marriage being a selfless act, and Brandy pretty much hits it on the nail. With all things that God has given us stewardship over, such as our bodies, finances, our homes, it is also important to remember He also gave us our spouses. Remember, marriage is a selfless act. Ephesians 5:21 reminds us that God wants husbands and wives to submit to each other out of reverence or respect for Christ. Though He brought husbands and wives together within the context of love, He did it for the purpose of the kingdom. Your marriage is a ministry designed by God to glorify His kingdom. It is hard to know that your marriage is a ministry and feel that it is designed by Him when you do not know Him or feel Him. So that's really what I wanted to touch on, is because if you don't know God or have a relationship with Him, then you wouldn't know the blueprint He has for you and for you within your marriage. So it's important that you study the Bible, you study the Word, and that you have that community that can help you along the way. So once again, if you want to check out Brandy's book, It Takes a Village to Stay Married, you can find it on Amazon, or you can visit her website, which is I Am Brandy, that's BRANDIE Jones.com. Hope you enjoy the rest of this video.
My mom's never been married, so I didn't really have anyone to look at as far as an example. So I had to look at different relatives, but every marriage is different. So basically, what I would have told myself prior to getting married, as far as just the different stereotypes, is you're going to get into arguments. I'm a non-confrontational person, so I try to avoid conflict, which doesn't help because you want to be able to have that transparency and be able to feel like you can talk to your spouse. So for me, it was be more vocal. It's okay. Let your spouse know how you're feeling. You don't have to be quiet and timid at times. Just don't be so blunt to where you come to hurt the other person's feelings. But it's okay to be vocal. It's okay. It's okay if the person doesn't like what you're going to say and it may start an argument. It's okay. It's okay with arguing. Arguing isn't a bad thing. Arguments can lead to growth. That's how you find out your next.
And without it, you will not you will not develop your relationship.
Yep.
So to answer your question, and I didn't mean to cut you off if
you're fine.
but what I would tell my single self before I stand on the altar would be that at the end of the day, our marriage is our marriage. What I mean by that is my parents were married, and I watched how my mother interacted with my stepfather and how my stepfather interacted with my mother. I watched movies, I read books, I've read all this stuff to tell you how to be this thing, but there's not a single document or a single movie or a single person that knows how to be a good husband to my wife.
Yeah.
And that's something that I had to learn, is that I could read all this stuff, but nothing will tell me how to be a good husband to my wife other than those experiences and my wife. My wife is the best person to tell me how to be a good husband, and I had to accept that and own that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Good husband, bro.
You want to go?
I think I was telling myself a lot of things. But I think the biggest one for me was that my husband has feelings, because when I first met Terrell, I'm considered a very emotional person. I'm very vocal about how I feel about certain things, and I tend to react with my emotions first. Terrell's very logical. So before we got married, a lot of the decisions he would make would be very logical, down to even planning the wedding, down to even the day of the wedding. Like, I really didn't see that emotional side of him. And so I just kind of approached it with, okay, well, everything he does is logical. And in some respect, I kind of took that on in the way that I treated him. So I wouldn't really take into account the feelings aspect of a lot of things that we would do. So sometimes I've noticed that the longer we've been married, I'll do stuff and he'll come back and tell me, oh, that hurt my feelings. I'm like, oh, like I really didn't even know. And then, you know, maybe it was a little bit inconsiderate of me, but I really didn't know you had feelings like that. You know what I mean? Like, usually you'll see the logic behind why I did what I did before you see how it affects your feelings. And so I think for me, it's just as much as logical as Terrell is, he has feelings. And you need to be considerate of those feelings. Just as much as you would want someone to treat you a certain way, you have to do that. I think I've gotten so much in the habit of, well, he'd be okay. Like, even when I started working, when I started a new job. He just knows, you know, it's a new job. You're starting a new job. You're going to work a lot of hours. It's perfectly fine. So I wouldn't even call and tell him. I'm like, he's probably fine. He's probably doing something else at home. But when I would come home after a couple of months, he's like, hey, I would like for us to spend time together. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Because I thought, you know, from your perspective, you understand that this is what needs to be done. But just that expression of, hey, I would like for you to spend some time with me, wasn't really something that I would have expected. So that's something that I probably tell myself is people change, and I think I've seen that change in Terrell to where he's become more vocal about how he feels, and that wasn't something that I expected. Yeah. So it's just to be conscious of that.
Yeah.
But
I guess for me, one of the biggest things I would do is something I found in the book as well is don't take it personal, right? So a lot of things that or actions that may take place, I think we can take it personal, thinking the negative aspect of it or the negative implications behind it, when in our reality that wasn't the intent.
Yeah.
That wasn't the intent behind it, right? So I know I had a bad habit of just jumping in saying, oh, this was your intentions or your meanings behind this action, right? And then that would lead to other things that, you know, when my base was inaccurate from the jump. So one of the biggest things I had to realize is don't always take things personally.
Yeah. And I think to piggyback off of your point is not making assumptions.
Oh yeah.
That has been a huge, I'd probably tell myself, always assume the best in your partner unless proven otherwise. Like if they did something, don't assume that they did that to hurt you or they did that to be petty.
Right.
I'm going to take a step back, understand, why did you do, ask the question, hey, why did you do what you did? Or why did you say what you said?
Right.
Versus assuming, well, you did this because
Absolutely.
you wanted to do X, Y, Z to me.
Absolutely.
And that has been a constant challenge. And I probably tell myself to be conscious of that because it's hard. Because you always want to jump in and be like, well, you did this to hurt me. And it's like, no, actually, I did this because of X, Y, Z. And so just not making assumptions and stepping back and asking questions. Why did you say what you just said? Why did you do what you just did? Because I think it would avoid a lot of arguments and confusion.
And for me, that's the quickest way to resolve an argument, because we may add something to that. There's a big difference between perception and reality, or perception and intent. How my wife, Anisha, says something, I may perceive it completely different.
Yep.
But her intent was to maybe say a joke or be helpful, and it's the same thing that you all are saying. But my perception was it was either damaging or you were trying to belittle me or embarrass me. And so that difference between what the person's intent of saying something and how the other person receives it or perceives it.
Yeah.
And with that, arguments come up.
Yep.
Now, you may not be able to handle it in that moment. You may be in a public space. You may be on the phone or whatever the case may be. But for me, and what I believe for us, the best way and fastest way to resolve that is, before we go down the route of you hurt my feelings or how I felt right now, what was your intent? Or why did you say what you said? Because once you figure out the logic behind it, then it's like, oh, I get it now, and this is how I perceived it, and I see where that miscommunication happened. Now we can be okay.
Yep.